Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning once again, folks. Welcome back to Financial Issues. We got a great show planned for you today. I'm Seth Sam here with you, as well as the Studio A team. We're happy to have you this morning. However you're watching or listening, welcome to the program. Grateful to have you here on Financial Issues. Our phone lines open here at 610-363-1110, so you can join the conversation, 610-363-1110. Folks, I have a very special guest on with me this morning, the founder and president of Preborn, Dan Steiner. Dan is a dear friend of mine, a dear friend of our ministry, and we are grateful to have him as we have now completed another successful May Mother's Day campaign. We wanted to have Dan on to celebrate that and to see what God is doing through Preborn and Financial Issues. Dan, welcome back, brother. It's great to have you on the program with me.
Yeah, time to celebrate here, Seth. This is awesome.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Dan, let's start here. We have raised, as of right now, roughly $220,000. Obviously, the campaign is finished, so the ability to donate for this campaign is closed right now. Of course, if the Lord leads you to give to Preborn, you should go do that right now. Absolutely. But roughly $220,000 raised. We're still counting some of the final numbers. 44 ultrasound machines underwritten. We are praising God for that. Dan, what does the generosity of the Financial Issues listeners mean to you?
Well, over the years, it's an enduring partnership of blessing. It's a cornucopia of favor from the Lord, initiated by our friend Dan Celia, who's probably watching from heaven, and make sure you're doing it right there, Seth.
I hope so. I hope it's okay.
He kicked this whole thing off with the intentionality that he would use the influence and the megaphone of Financial Issues to be able to do more than just the wonderful concept of having people be wise stewards of God's money, but also then to use that to further the kingdom. And I can tell you, we're on Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Glenn Beck and name another influencer, all of them. None of them were like you guys, where you say, and Celia would say this all the time, give to Preborn before you give to Financial Issues. Now, I don't know that that's great. I think I need to give to Financial Issues first if you're a Financial Issues listener, but it reflected the heart that the listeners have, as we've witnessed here this month of May, really echoed from Dan's heart, which is that we're about ministry here at Financial Issues and Preborn. We're about furthering the kingdom of the leader of both of our ministries, Financial Issues and Preborn, the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's exactly what we did this May with these $220,000 worth of ultrasounds underwritten. This is awesome.
Amen. And Dan, you just mentioned those ultrasound machines, ultrasounds underwritten. So these machines will be placed in Preborn clinics strategically. I want you to speak for a moment to the importance of these machines. Why are these ultrasound machines so necessary for the work that Preborn does?
Yeah, so in the challenge to stop the abortion industrial complex and the million women that last year aborted, two things have to happen. First, we have to reach them where they're at searching for abortion. And that's online, and that's what Preborn does. We market and reach these women online. They're digital natives. They're born with the internet in their lives, native alphas and millennials, and vector them into one of our network care provider clinics, which we have over 250 of those around the country in the highest abortion cities. That's step one. Step two is when we get them in the clinic, we want them to meet their baby firsthand. And that's what the listeners here have done, is they've made what has been an issue into an most important day of that woman's life, where she sees that God has given her the gift of life. And if she sees that ultrasound, Seth, it doubles the likelihood that she will choose life. And so we've been able to reach them. We came in yesterday morning. There are 50 women online waiting for us to talk to them yesterday. And so it really is an amazing outreach that we're doing together. But we couldn't do it. We don't obviously even yet get any money, nor have we asked from the government. We don't charge for anything that we do. And so it's imperative that God's people do something about this issue. And this $28 underwrites an ultrasound session, part of the cost of that, from the nurse giving the ultrasound. and we give it to the girl for free. It's a $400 value service, and that allows her to see her baby, and this makes all the world of difference in her life.
You know, Dan, my desire, just as you were talking there, I had this thought in my mind. Imagine how amazing it would be if the people of God outgave to preborn in donations what Planned Parenthood receives. I mean, that would be insanely amazing. And someday to see preborn conquering Planned Parenthood, and you know the dynasty of Planned Parenthood rid. I know we're praying for that and working for that. You guys are making some great strides toward that, brother, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. Dan, I want you to give us a sense for just a moment of how the battle of life has changed in the last few years. Now, you've said this before on the show, but it's so important. The location of many abortions today are now not in an abortion clinic, but in a girl's bathroom. Why is now perhaps more important than ever to come alongside preborn as the battle is getting into such a different place now with the abortion pill?
The whole profile and complexion of abortion in America has changed entirely since the fall of Roe versus Wade in 2022.
Yeah.
And not for the better. There are 100,000 more abortions after Roe versus Wade fell. And if Planned Parenthood closed down tomorrow, there would still be abortions without stop because women can obtain them on the internet, and that's where they're directing them to. They're charging the same amount for the pill as they would for a mechanical abortion. And so they're lowering their overhead costs and still proliferating abortion to every single neighborhood in America. And so not only is it more prolific, more permeating the culture, but it's also more devastating on the hearts of women. A woman, when she went into a abortion clinic, wouldn't see her baby. She knew what was going on. It would break her heart. Now it's happening in her bathroom. It's hours of bloody trauma, delivering the baby on the bathroom floor or in her toilet. And it just breaks their heart. When it came to us just the other day, it's just like, I didn't know what to do. It was moving on the floor. And it's like, what do I do? And so the devastation, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, on the women of America, and what the Democratic Party and the pro-abortion contingency erroneously and grievously frames as healthcare is destroying women by the thousands. 65% of all abortions are chemical. So this is what why we're online in direct competition on a click-by-click basis to reach these women before the abortion industry does and get them into our clinics to care for them. Recently, a letter was sent to our now Health and Human Services Director, RFK, about the hazards of the abortion pill, finding out that 11%, more than 1 out of every 10 women that take this end up with serious hospitalizations from this deadly abortion chemical coat hanger of RU46. And so, in fact, yesterday they came out, his assistant there at Health and Human Services says that they're definitely going to do a thorough review of Mifepristone, which is the issue. It's a 2-abortion concoction, Mifepristone and misoprostol. One kills the baby, the other causes contractions and delivers the baby. And so it's morphed into this digital chemical thing that is purely satanic, and we're here with the listeners here doing something every day. 200 babies a day saved on the internet and in our clinics in competition to this satanic grievous Holocaust, frankly, that's happening in our country.
It is. Dan, it's amazing the work that you guys do. And folks, I can't stress enough, to have an online presence, to be able to, like Dan just said, to beat these abortion industries to the eyes of these women as they're searching online, looking to get an abortion pill. It takes money to be able to do that. Preborn needs the funds to be able to do that. And by God's grace, the listeners of Financial Issues have provided so well for that. It's amazing. Dan, as we close here, how can our listeners continue to lift up and pray for the success of preborn?
Yeah, pray for a favor that we are able to outfox Google on a hour-by-hour basis. That they might be going to the White House, but let me tell you, they're still censoring conservative Christian content, particularly ours. And so we've been successful with that, but it's very difficult. And just pray for these women that we reach, that they would have tender hearts and that we're able to touch them, not only for life, Seth, but most importantly for the gospel of Jesus Christ, that they would be able to come to a place where they make better life decisions for their choices and for the baby. And if the woman comes to Christ, likely the kid will too. So this is why we're the gospel champions of the pro-life movement, making motherhood possible. Thanks to the listeners of Financial Issues, over 7,785 women will receive a free ultrasound this year because you guys cared. Thank you for that. Awesome.
Dan, you're a blessing to us, brother. We thank you so much. It's an honor to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and we'll keep on doing it, brother, for the glory of God. Folks, that's Dan Steiner, founder and president of Preborn. Wonderful work by all of you this past May, lifting up Preborn. Let's continue the fight. Let's continue to save babies and bring the gospel to these mothers and fathers and to these families, really, through the work that Preborn's doing. We got more Financial Issues coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere. How is Timothy Plan continuing to lead the fight as you guys now enter your fourth decade of leading this fight of biblically responsible investing?
We've been too silent for too long, and we can no longer be silent. You stand up, like Ronald Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing all of our liberty. It has to be fought for. I wish it didn't. And you can fight for it. You don't need guns and ammunition and that. You can fight for it, especially with your dollars, because it's always about the money. And when the money starts impacting people, they start paying attention. When we launched this, they said it couldn't be done, but here we are 30 years later. They said you couldn't get competitive returns, but here we are.
What a tremendous testament of God's grace.
Go to financialissues.org/Timothy Plans to learn more about Timothy Plan.
Through Crossroads Kids Club, lives like Dali's are being changed all over the world.
When I was 8 years old, my parents separated temporarily. It made me feel lost, empty, and without direction. Until one day, I went with my cousins to the Crossroads Club. This led me to know Lord Jesus and accept Him in my heart. He changed my life, and I don't feel lonely anymore.
Reaching kids with the hope of the gospel in schools and across the world. You can change a young life today at reachourschools.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support Preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone, and ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Dan Steiner. I know I sure did every time I get to have him on the program. In the next few days, we are going to announce those official final numbers for the Preborn campaign. We had a couple kind of last-minute gifts come in, and they were a amount that we're not sure of yet. So we're waiting to announce that final number.
The technical term is stragglers.
They
were
straggling. That's what we would call stragglers. But they made it in. They made it in just at the end, Sam. And so we're just grateful for that. So we'll make sure to announce that. But either way, man, you guys just killed it. Did such a good job, as always. You could hear it in Dan's voice there, how much it means to him and what the partnership means for both our ministries. It really is an amazing thing. Hey, I want to remind you, check out the partner commentary, folks. It's a great commentary this week, so if you haven't gotten a chance to look at it, I hope that you'll do so. You did hear Dan mention as well It's likely, very, very likely, as he said, that ministries like ours and preborns are still getting what you'd call shadow banned. So that's, basically where there's certain algorithms that keep conservative platforms on social media from getting to as many eyes as perhaps other platforms. We can actually fight against that, folks. And the way to do it is really simple. It's just spread the word. Spread the word about financial issues. Tell your church about it. Tell your friends about it. Share it on social media, of course, for sure. Whether the shadow banning is happening at a heavy level or not, those likes, those shares, those reposts, they really help. And that's that organic growth that we really try to achieve here at the ministry. So if you want to help us out, it doesn't cost anything. Just tell people about us. Pretty cool. Did want to remind you also, we do have Bible study tomorrow morning. Hope you all join us for Bible study. I sent an email to the Bible study folks asking to send me questions that you want answered. If you've got questions about the scriptures, particularly the book of Daniel that we've been in for the last several months or so. But if you have questions about anything in the scriptures, send them to me. You can put them in the chat as well. And I'll do my best to answer some of those tomorrow. If we get a lot, I'll prioritize it and spend more time on it. But we'll be in Daniel 5, 25 through 31 tomorrow. Hey, Sam, let's do a follow-up here from what Dan said in that last interview here. There's some good things happening in the fight for life. Actually, some really good things that I'm really excited for. And one of them is that the FDA is conducting a full review of the abortion pill. What can you tell us about this?
This is something that Dan actually had mentioned during his interview. This comes as Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley revealed this week that yes, indeed, the FDA plans to conduct a full review, that is, of the abortion drug Mifepristone. Last month, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told Hawley he was, quote, alarmed by a new study. This was also referenced by Dan, showing that 1 in 10 women have a serious adverse event from taking the drug. That's in fact 22 times higher than what it says on the FDA label. Here's RFK with his reaction.
It is, and it's alarming, and clearly it indicates that at very least the label should be changed. I've asked Marty McCary, who's the director of FDA, to do a complete review and to report back.
And Dr. McCary says he is doing just that. In a letter shared by Hawley, McCary said, quote, as the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, I am committed to conducting a review of Mifepristone and working with the professional career scientists at the agency who review this data, though he did go on to say that Mifepristone is currently subject to lawsuits and therefore he can't say too much about it at this time.
Thanks for bringing this up, Sam. First off, right off the bat, how about RFK moving more and more pro-life? Now, I don't know the man's heart. Dan has talked with him. Dan Steiner has talked with him before. Sounds like from their conversations, he's moving in the right direction, Sam. I mean, let's just put it that way. You'll love to see that. This is a guy who was at one point, you could argue he was an establishment Democrat, although I think he was always a little bit of a fringe guy, even going all the way back. But you're seeing a lot of people like that having common sense, realizing just the absolute folly and wickedness of the party that they grew up in.
He's certainly friendly to the pro-life position, to give him that at the very least.
Absolutely. I can recall, I've shared this before on the program, but Dan had a conversation with RFK when they met the first time. In fact, I think Tucker Carlson may have introduced those guys. I'm not sure, but anyway, Dan was talking to him, and RFK asked, what do you do? And Dan said, I'm the head of preborn. My job is to put Planned Parenthood out of business. And RFK just smiled and said, that's good. That's good. That's really good. So it seems to be a political ally there for sure, and you just love to see that. The hope and prayer, folks, is that now that people begin to see how damaging abortion is for women, maybe they'll also see how damaging it is for babies. Just a thought. I mean, it's now, starting to become public knowledge that this abortion pill is actually really harmful to women. Should it surprise us? That's the question. Should it surprise us that a drug that kills a human being is also harmful to the human being who is carrying that human being? Shouldn't surprise us at all. Absolutely, this is harmful. And so I think getting the word out with this is tremendous, seeing this here. Sam, once again, my hope is just, and this might be the next domino that needs to fall, is for guys like RFK to begin to see, this is harmful to the baby too. Oh, it's actually killing the baby. We need to stop this.
It's because you can see the mom. You can't see the baby. We all see that the mom's a human being, but because you can't see the baby, you can't see that he's right there alive. He's a person. That's why ultrasounds are so important. That's what preborn understands.
Exactly right. And folks, when you're talking about, our twofold mission here, defunding darkness, funding the light. We defund darkness through our investor dollars. We don't want a single cent of our money being given to companies that are going to promote this stuff, promote the abortion pill, promote abortion through the work that they do, fund abortion through that stuff. So we want your investor dollars be going to companies that are not going to do those things. But we also want to be able to fund the light through joyful and generous giving so that we are positively supporting organizations that fight against this stuff, like preborn. So that's part of the reason why the financial issue strategy is so important. And if you are using the financial issue strategy for your investing, as I am, as Sam is, as I know so many of you listeners out there are, you are partaking in this great and wonderful fight against something so evil, fighting for something that is so good, which is the cause of life.
Right, because we've been talking a lot about how the Trump administration is trying to defund Planned Parenthood, but that's only half the money they receive. So sure, it's going to do a lot of damage, but still, they receive hundreds and millions of dollars from private donations each year, many of them coming from these major companies.
Yep, that's exactly right. Sam, it certainly is it's a David and Goliath battle, absolutely. And I don't want to be the guy who just superimposes myself onto David. David is actually a foreshadowing of Christ, by the way, and Christ defeats the giant on our behalf. But nonetheless, we can still take that as an example for us as well, that we fight against a giant that on the surface appears a whole lot bigger than we do, but we have a God who is far bigger than that giant on our side, the God of the universe. And so that's something to be celebrated and encouraged for sure. Speaking of that, Sam, things to be celebrated and encouraged. Looks like the Trump administration is getting involved in this as well. Trump is ending another Biden abortion policy. What can you tell us about this?
That's right. That's been something he's been doing since he got into the White House, but he's still at it. The Trump administration on Tuesday, ripped up another Biden abortion mandate, this time rescinding the latest interpretation of what's known as the Emergency Medical Treatment Active Labor Act. What this would do, it would have required medical centers, even pro-life ones in pro-life states, to perform abortions if deemed necessary for stabilizing treatment, though it's not exactly clear what that means, as Live Action notes, and also our guest Mary Zock from FRC has also noted that abortions are never actually medically necessary, even in emergencies. Live Action says, quote, while some conditions may require a preterm delivery of a baby, this is not the same as intentionally killing the preborn child before delivery. So thankfully, this law is no longer going to be in place.
Yeah. That's awesome. Folks, I can't stress enough, Sam mentioned it. I had Mary Zock back on May 13th. So if you go to the website, financialissues.org, go to the Watch tab. Down there, you can find episodes on demand. Go back to the episode that we did on May 13th. I had Mary Zock on. I believe it was in the midway point of that episode. You can check that out. And we asked and answered that exact same question. Is an abortion ever medically necessary to save the life of the mother? And the answer is no. I mean, it absolutely is. Like what that quote just said there, Sam, some conditions might require an early C-section, which is different. It just absolutely is different. But never is killing the child going to be the thing that saves the mother. It's
always floored me when the pro-abortionists say no woman gets an abortion at 8 or 9 months. That's always because of a medical emergency, something like that. And my thought is always what you just said. Why don't you just have an emergency C-section? What's killing the child going to do to fix this medical situation?
Exactly right. And as we so often see, the abortion pill killing the child, it has adverse effects on the mother too. I mean, it just does. And so, we had Walt Heyer on the program yesterday, and he had mentioned the trans movement being something that dehumanizes people. That was a word that he used over and over again. It's the same political machine behind this, folks, dehumanizing people through gender mutilation. They're dehumanizing mothers who've had the chance to give their children life. Sam, there was one note here. The critics have noted the language of the Biden order refused to acknowledge pregnant mothers as women, but simply refer to them as pregnant patients.
Exactly right. Yep. Insult to injury right there.
It's ridiculous. It really is. So this is good on Trump. I love to see this. Let's keep this up. And folks, for you personally as well, I can't stress this enough on not only how important preborn is and how much we love preborn, but if you simply invest with the financial issues strategy, you are partaking in fighting back against this darkness, in defunding darkness, funding the light, particularly in the area of abortion. Not only in abortion, also gambling, pornography, human rights abuses, but abortion is certainly a big one. Absolutely. Great stuff. Sam, thanks for bringing those headlines to our attention, brother. Let's take a look here now, folks, quickly at the markets. before the end of the segment. So what they did yesterday, the indices continued in the green. They had a nice day on Tuesday. The upward trajectory was kind of muted. Yesterday morning, we talked about the paltry jobs data that we had received. That kind of seemed to maybe put a damper on the market's day yesterday. So it ended up being really kind of a nothing burger. By the closing bell, the Dow Jones ended up down a fifth. The NASDAQ mirrored it in the positive a little bit. It was up about maybe 0.3% or so. And then the S&P 500 was right at the flat line. The pre-markets as of this morning, moderately positive as well. So the Dow Jones is pricing into open in just a few minutes at 0.15%. The S&P 500, 0.22%. And the NASDAQ right at a fifth of a percentage point. Folks, we are keeping an eye as well on the potential of a conversation between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. I'm seeing latest headlines right now that according to Chinese media, Trump is holding a call with Xi. Now, according to Chinese media, you got to take that with not just a grain of salt, but how about a huge, gigantic bowl of salt? But nonetheless,
a dash of soy sauce,
just a dash of it. Yeah, right. We're going to keep an eye on that though for sure and see if anything comes out of that. But perhaps today could be the day that we get some kind of step forward between these two world superpowers. We'll just have to wait and see. We got more information coming up on the other side of this break. Make sure to say hello if you're watching on the chat there. If you have to leave us, folks, Shana will be back tomorrow. We're looking forward to have her back. Make sure to get your calls queued up tomorrow morning early. The rest of you, we got more financial issues coming up right after this.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Gain valuable insights from partners sharing about financial issues.
We work so hard, all of us do, to get this money, and I knew nothing about how to use it appropriately, biblically. And the strategy is so simple. You guys are on the front line of the battle.
My wife and I have been partners with you for several years, and we have benefited greatly from your advice and your ministry.
I do nothing without following FISM's advice on stocks, and especially since it's coming from a spiritual foundation.
You are amazing. Nobody is doing what you are doing for the body of Christ.
I just wanted to call and thank you for the advice that you gave me a little over a year ago. It has panned out very well.
I've never dreamed I'd be able to give money like this.
Become a partner today by simply going to financialissues.org/join. Click the green button to become a partner today.
I want to make a point. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you.
I know.
folks. Welcome back to Financial Issues. It is wonderful to be here with you this morning. Happy to have you all today. I want to give a couple shout outs here. We'll do our little chat rundown right now. Peter and Josie, haven't seen you guys in a while from Arkansas. Great to have you back, Peter and Josie. Hope you're doing
slacking.
Well. That's right. But you know what? They're back now. So we love
okay,
to see
I forgive them.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. John from Alabama. Great to see you, John. John is asking how the family's doing. They're doing well, John. Thank you. Knox is smiling now, which is pretty cool. He can recognize people and faces, and so he'll smile at Megan and at me. It's an amazing thing to see. It's really cool. So thanks for asking, brother. James from South Carolina. Hello, James. Matt in Georgia. Great to see you, my brother. As always, Lisa from Texas. Good to see you, Lisa. I'm sure our Brian Brigade is here. Brian from Virginia, as well as Brian from Missouri. Dave and Darlene. Good to see you, Dave and Darlene, this morning. I'm trying to see if I missed anyone. If I missed you, say something in the chat, and I'll make sure to give you a shout out there as well. Good to see you all this morning. George, I see you there. Great to see you, George. We also have, folks, a growing audience on X. You might know it as Twitter. So our Twitter audience, great to see all of you this morning. We do live stream the show on Twitter/X now. So wonderful to see you guys there.
I'm a conservative. I don't like change, so I still call it Twitter.
I still call it Twitter too. Yeah. I know. I couldn't get behind X, even though I liked a lot of what Elon Musk was doing.
It is so much better Twitter as X than Twitter.
Oh, big time.
Besides the name.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Sam, let's check out some more headlines here, moving into kind of geopolitics, a little bit of what's going on in the public financial sphere here. So I think the big news that we're seeing from today, as we await whatever might come from the call between Trump and Xi, is that Trump is demanding his best trade deals. Actually, he was demanding them by yesterday. What can you tell us about this?
Yesterday was the deadline.
Yep.
Trump said, I want your best offers by Wednesday. That is yesterday, which makes total sense as he's preparing to have these high-stakes discussions with Xi Jinping. It's important to say, hey, Xi, I have all these other countries that are willing to make a deal with me, so what are you going to do? Are you going to be the one that's left out in the cold? But yes, that is what was said in a draft letter seen by Fox Business. The U.S. was asking for each nation's best offer on tariffs and on non-tariff barriers, as well as on quotas for purchasing American industrial and agriculture products. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the letter as of yesterday. Here she is.
USTR sent this letter to all of our trading partners just to give them a friendly reminder that the deadline is coming up. And they are in talks. Ambassador Greer, Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick are in talks with many of our key trading partners around the globe. As you know, Brian, I know the Wall Street Journal has covered this quite heavily. And they continue to be engaged in those discussions. And this letter was simply to remind these countries that the deadline is approaching and the president expects good deals, and we are on track for that, I will emphasize.
Now, Seth, I've not heard any updates about this, whether or not these offers were received. Presumably, at least some of them have been, and the White House is reviewing them. According, again, to that letter, the U.S. will then evaluate each trade deal and provide what they call a possible landing zone in response within the next couple of days. This comes as Trump's tariff policy is facing renewed urgency because it's facing challenges in court. And again, he's also negotiating with Xi Jinping. Trump posted on Truth Social the other day saying he likes Xi Jinping of China. He says he always has. However, he says he's very tough and, quote, extremely hard to make a deal with.
Yeah, you know what? He's right on. He's right on with that. It's extremely hard. That's probably what he would say. Like, extremely hard. I like Xi. I like him. When you're dealing with your political enemy, I mean, really, we're not talking about, your political, the other side of the political. We're talking about your worldwide political foe. Yeah, it's tough to make a deal with them. It's tough to make a deal with the leader of the Chinese Communist Party. Absolutely. I'm confident that Trump can, for sure.
Especially, as Frank Gaffney has pointed out, their interests are directly opposed to ours. So even when they're making some sort of deal that's trying to be beneficial to both sides, in the back of his head, Xi's trying to manipulate that so it actually harms the U.S. in the end.
That's exactly right. And you know what, Sam? There's a big part of me that's impressed that there is even a talk between them at all, or the potential of it. We've had some before. Now there was the kerfluffle with it. Now they're trying to come together again. The fact that they are talking at all is, I think, a good sign. I think just at face value, it can be a good sign. I mean, we've compared it to the original Cold War from the 20th century, where there was basically no communication at all between the United States and the USSR. There was no trade, there was no nothing. So at least there is some communication there. We'll just have to see what comes of it. You know, hopefully there's more progress made, to be sure.
And hopefully that he gets these other trade deals out of the way, giving even more leverage while he has these talks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, Sam, back at home, it seems like the liberals are trying to get under Trump's skin. They've come up with what I'm sure they think is a pretty clever phrase here. What can you tell us about this?
I guess it's kind of clever if you're a 5-year-old, but they're calling Trump a taco. And you think, what does that even mean? Yeah. Well, they're trying to get under his skin by mocking his tariff negotiations with this phrase, Trump always chickens out. So the acronym is TACO, and I guess they think that's very clever. Actually, they didn't even come up with it at all. It was originally coined by Wall Street traders who were saying, you know, Trump talks tough about tariffs, but then he always backs down when the market begins to dip. They point to his 90-day pause a couple of months ago saying, yeah, the markets were in real turmoil. Then he announced that 90-day pause and they shot right back up. They're predicting he's going to do that more and more. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's the claim there, and Democrats are now jumping on this. In fact, earlier this week on Tuesday, the DNC parked a taco truck outside the RNC as Taco Tuesday also trended on social media. Trump was asked about this smear earlier this week, or rather last week, and here is his response. Take a look at this.
And Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want.
So what Trump's basically saying is, I'm not chickening out, I'm negotiating. That's what you do. You put the threat on the table. If someone comes to the table, you back off a little bit, and it's a back and forth in order to get something done. So what do you think, Seth?
You know, Sam, it's fascinating to me, the lack of common sense I think that we see from these people. You're exactly right. Everybody has negotiated something at some point, whether it's a salary, whether you've gone to a pawn shop. That's part of being a human, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's good. You want to get a fair deal on something. Like, it's great. You've maybe negotiated the sale of a used car, something like that, or you've maybe negotiated the sale of a home. You know, you're trying to get the most bang for your buck with that. That's part of being a human. I think it's important for us to do our history, folks. Okay, because you got to remember, these were the same people who only months ago were freaking out. They were going bananas. They were getting so frustrated that Trump's tariff policies were too strict. And they were saying this is going to destroy the economy. This is going to make everything horrible. It's all going to be run into the ground. And now they're saying he's not tough enough. I am tempted to think that they lack common sense. But Sam, I actually think that there's more common sense here than we might think. It's actually more sinister than that, really, is what this is.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this is far more sinister. Remember their main goal. Their main goal is political power. That's all they care about. All they care about is getting votes. The entire job security that they have. See, I work in a job that I love. The part of my job security is doing the job well. If I do the job well, I'm going to keep my job. That's the reward for doing the job well. These political leaders, their only job security is keeping votes, keeping their constituents happy. And so they have to criticize whatever Trump does, even if it's the opposite thing of what they criticized him last week. They're going to criticize whatever it is because they want to stir up strife among their constituency, because that's how they hold on to power.
Well, it seems like what they're trying to do is goad Trump into keeping the tariffs really high, which just, you're right, a couple months ago, they're saying that's bad for the economy.
Exactly.
So if they still think that's bad for the economy, we can debate whether or not that's true. But let's say they do think that. What they're trying to do is keep the tariffs high so the economy will be bad. So then they'll get back into power. They don't really care about the American American people or how well the economy is functioning. They just want Trump to look bad.
That's exactly right. Folks, we've got to see this. We need to use the common sense the Lord has given us to see what's really happening here. Is that's the end goal for these people. Absolutely. And you know what the sad part is, Sam, is that millions of people will listen to them. Millions of people will listen to what they said several weeks ago, and they'll say everything's burning, it's all terrible. And then they'll listen to what they're saying now about Trump, and they'll say Trump needs to be tougher, he needs to be harder on him.
And I hope that out of all those people, Trump is the one that doesn't listen to them, that he tunes them out, because unfortunately, as smart as Trump is, sometimes he does take the bait on these things and will fall for it. You saw that during his debate with Kamala Harris, he would frequently fall for the bait. So you saw him in that clip. He was getting a little hot under the collar, but still the things he was saying actually made a lot of sense, and he was still speaking very rationally. So I hope he stays the course.
Definitely. I completely agree. So just a good thing to keep in mind, folks, as you use the common sense that the Lord has given you, for sure. All right, we're coming to the end of this segment here. Let's take a quick look at the markets now as they've opened. I'll refresh my screen here for just a moment, and the Dow Jones is now in the red. It's down about 0.1% or so. The S&P 500 is right below the flat line, and the NASDAQ is right above the flat line as we sit this morning. Oil is right around almost $64 a barrel, and the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield coming down a little bit from that jobless claims increase. 4.38% or so is where the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield is as of where we speak right now. All right, folks, more financial issues coming up here. Hey, we are going to hear from Shana in this next segment, so I'm looking forward to that. You're going to want to stick around for this final segment of today's show. We'll be right back after this break.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Through Crossroads Kids Club, lives like Dali's are being changed all over the world.
When I was 8 years old, my parents separated temporarily, and my mom and I moved houses. But I started to discover pornography that helped me develop behavior that was rebellious, immoral, and bad. It made me feel lost, empty, and without direction. Until one day, I went with my cousins to the Crossroads Club. I really liked the Bible teachings, how they mixed them with games and fun. This led me to know Lord Jesus and accept Him in my heart. He forgave me and changed my behavior. He changed my life, and I don't feel lonely anymore.
Reaching kids with the hope of the gospel in schools and across the world. You can change a young life today at reachourschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Folks, again, thanks for joining us here. Our live chat is active as usual. Wonderful to see.
Live and chatty.
Yeah, live and chatty is exactly right. Lisa, in reference to Trump, Lisa from Texas saying he's much stronger this term. Lisa, I think you're right. I definitely think we're seeing a refined Trump in this term. Listen, with what he went through between 2021 and 2024, going from being charged and possibly facing 700 years of prison to being assassinated twice.
I was going to say, a bullet to the head can change your perspective a little bit.
Your life. It can definitely change your life. He's come back stronger for sure. So hopefully we see these deals get done. And once again, folks, we'll be keeping an eye on if anything comes out of the Trump-China talks. I'm not seeing anything updated as of right now. So we'll just have to wait and see there. Again, that news coming from Chinese media, so take it with perhaps a little more than a grain of salt. All right, folks, great call here that Shana did a little bit while ago on tax tips. When we're talking about building wealth, we always have to keep in the back of our mind giving Uncle Sam his due, or perhaps not his due, but what the law of the land says is his due, unfortunately. So Shana talks with a caller in this clip about that. Great stuff here. I hope that you can be encouraged by it. Here's Shana Burt with this caller.
And you're live again on Financial Issues.
Yeah, so you were explaining converting that money and that taxes could be taken out at the time of conversion if you need to do quarterly withholding. Does that sound correct?
What I said was it can be withheld at the time that you convert it, and or the preferable way of doing it is to pay the taxes with your own money rather than having the money withheld. But that if you do that, you might want to talk to your tax person about making some estimated payments, estimated quarterly payments with other money than what comes out of the IRA.
Okay, all right. And also, do you have a suggestion of how much you convert to that Roth at a time?
Yeah, so that's going to be really dependent on your own tax situation. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, maybe pull out your tax return from last year. You're going to need to estimate how much income you're going to have in the current year that you're making the Roth conversion. So you're going to want to look at, if you have a job, do you get a W-2 or 1099s? What kind of income do you have there? Do you have income from Social Security or a pension? Are you going to have capital gains to report? Do you have dividends? You're going to want to get an idea of what your total income is going to be. Then you're going to want to look at what your deductions are going to be. Are you going to take the standard deduction? If so, that's pretty straightforward. You can kind of calculate that. If you itemize, that might be a little bit trickier, but you have to come up with some kind of estimate on what your taxable income is going to be. My recommendation is to consider going all the way up to the end of the 22% tax bracket. It's sort of a no-brainer to me to go up to the end of the 12% tax bracket. So, if you're married, if you're adding everything together and your total taxable income's going to be somewhere around $50,000, it's a no-brainer to do at least to the top of the 12%, which would roughly be another $40,000, because then you're only going to pay taxes at the 12% rate on that money. And then additionally, if you have more to consider, and depending on your time, now I know you're over 59 and a half, but I don't know how close to 65 you are. That's the next magical age, because at age 65, you start Medicare. And if you're going to be doing more than just original Medicare, if you're going to be doing Part B and D, you need to be aware of a tax called IRMA. It's IRMAA if you want to look it up and find out more details about it. But what happens is that if your AGI is, or if your MAGI is over a certain limit in this year, it's going to impact your Medicare Part B and D premiums in 2027. So there's always a 2-year lag. So maybe you're not 65 right now, but if you're going to be 65 or older in 2027, then you want to be careful. The IRMA limit is somewhere right as you pass over into the 24% bracket at this point. So you're sort of safe if you stay under the top of the 22% bracket. So what I would do if you're thinking about getting close to that is, if you do your own taxes and have a great understanding of the process that I just explained, that's great. If not, I would consider at least working with a tax professional to help you calculate that amount.
Okay, that sounds good. So stay under the 22%, top of the 22%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my guideline.
Good.
All right, great.
All right. And why is that? Is that because you think you're going to make at least that much, considering the taxes that you save in your Roth?
Well, you're going to get tax-free growth on your Roth going forward as long as the government never changes the laws regarding Roth accounts. And so the whole idea about converting money is if you believe that taxes are it's all about winning the game means that you pay the lowest tax rate to get the money out. The only way to get the money out with no taxes is to give it. So once you're 70 and a half, you can do a qualified charitable distribution where you distribute money directly from the IRA to a nonprofit organization. Then you get the money out at zero. So if you have lifetime giving that you plan to do, giving while you're alive beyond 70 and a half, I wouldn't even consider converting that part of the money because you're going to be able to get that out at zero. So the rest of it over and beyond that, or let's say that you don't have any people beneficiaries and all of the money is going to go to kingdom beneficiaries. If your beneficiaries are nonprofit organizations, then Uncle Sam doesn't get any tax on that either. But you also have to look at your future because you're going to be, the whole idea of saving money for retirement is that it's going to help you make ends meet when you don't have a regular income coming in anymore, and then that income is going to be taxable. So you're trying to the game you're playing is trying to get the money out in the most efficient tax rate because returns are important, yes, but what's more important than what you make is what you get to keep. And so you're trying to play that game of paying Caesar what is due to Caesar, but not paying any more than what you have to. So if you think that taxes are going to be higher in the future than what they are today, what you would pay today, then it makes sense to do it because you're getting it out of the way. Let's say that you're going to pay 12% today, whereas you think maybe tax rates, but either because you have more income or because Congress is going to change rates, you think that the tax rates are going to be higher in the future. Well, it makes a whole lot more sense to pay 12% than some future higher rate. In addition to that, if it goes the other way, if we have lower taxes, which I find it really hard to even believe. I hear what Trump is saying and how he wants, taxes to decrease and maybe people under $150,000 to not pay any taxes, no taxes on Social Security. All of those things are great, and I think they would be great for our country. I just don't know if Congress has the fortitude to make it happen because it's really going to depend on Congress for tax structure. So, if you're trying, the whole game is to try to get the money out at the lowest tax rate.
Folks, it's a good rule of thumb to remember. You've heard Shana say this, Jason say this, Sam and myself have said this as well, that the likelihood of taxes being higher in the future than they are today is likely. That's probably what's going to happen. And so just, keeping that in mind. Also, I think knowing as well, Sam, I think this is important too. Sometimes we're fearful of, paying a tax because we made money. Just remember, folks, if you pay, a capital gains tax, for instance, that's a good thing because you made something. So don't get discouraged by that. That's right. It means you won. Unfortunately, we live in a system that is, the taxes are ridiculous, and our founding fathers would be ashamed that we have not revolted against these taxes. Yeah, I'm not calling for revolution, by the way. I'm simply saying that compared to what they did and the freedoms that they fought for, I think we've tolerated a whole lot more in our country. But, folks, in spite of all that, in spite of everything that's going on, we have a great hope that the victory is ours. I've been studying the book of Revelation these last couple of weeks. It's been fascinating. And so Revelation 5:11 through 12, as we close our show here, says this. John, the apostle, says, "Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, 'Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing.'" Folks, the victory is ours. It really is. And I don't want you to be calloused upon hearing that when we say that so often. But if you belong to Christ, then the victory is yours. The victory over this world, over the enemies that we talk about on a daily basis, seen and unseen, that's yours. It's yours in Christ. And so simply repenting and believing on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ for salvation, that's how you receive the blessings of this victory. Can't encourage you enough, if you've not trusted in Christ as your Savior, to do that today. Folks, tomorrow we got a big day for jobs. Don't miss it. I'm sure Shana's going to talk about it tomorrow. We get non-farm payrolls for the month of May. We also get the unemployment rate for the month of May tomorrow. So we'll be keeping an eye on how that's looking tomorrow. But I can't stress enough the importance of joining us for the show tomorrow. Shana will be back once again. I'm looking forward to having her back. It's going to be great. Until then, folks, just remember everything that you have belongs to the Lord. He's given it to you to steward well. So steward it well for his glory, and you will hear those great words, well done, good and faithful servant. God bless you all. For Sam Case, the Studio A team, and myself, great to be here with you once again. We hope to see you tomorrow for more financial issues. Remember, until then, it's all his. Let's be found good and faithful stewards. God bless.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.